My name is Alexandra DiBenigno, and I'm somebody that's looking into why are people so against plastic? So you've been hearing it everywhere. I mean, reusable straws, reusable cups, reusable, plastic bags that you can use for grocery stores, or would you like to use a paper bag? I mean, even if you go to any supermarket, you'll find reusable bags throughout the store. And it's interesting because it seems within the past 10 years, plastic has become such a terrible thing. And as somebody who doesn't have a lot of knowledge on the matter, I want to kind of explore what makes plastic such a villainous, you know, thing that, creates so much fear and so much newsworthy stories. Now, of course, there are both sides. There are people that are for plastic, or at least for not changing the way things are going right now, as well as people who are anti plastic and for changing the way things are right now. And usually, as somebody who is considered a millennial, most would assume that I'm for the side that is the greener side, which is presumably considered not using plastic anymore. But I really wanted to get into the heart of the issue and why things like plastic consumption are considered so villainous in today's world, and what exactly are other companies doing to correlate this villainous aspect of plastic with profit and change. And one organization that really interested me as far as finding that change and fighting for, no longer plastic consumption and reusable straws was the organization One More Generation and its cause-related campaign called #OneLessStraw. This One Less Straw initiative is focused on challenging elementary school children and their parents and other family members to take a stance and not use straws for one whole month, so 30 days. And that could seem like, really nothing in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the whole world and how much plastic is used. But, they also say and use multiple imageries to showcase that one less straw equals a brighter, greener tomorrow. And that idea of just how one piece of plastic can become part of a bigger problem is something that is really impactful. In a recent article by the PEW, plastic pollution affects sea life throughout the ocean, and documentations are showing the impact. As we can see in the following picture I'm about to put up on the screen, is that a sea turtle was found in the Pacific Ocean and had debris in its stomach, and this was the debris that was found. So you can see multiple plastic items throughout, and this is something that that people throw into the ocean whenever they're going on a beach picnic, or something that gets dumped by a truck, or something that somebody throws across a highway, into the water. And so these are kind of ways that humans play a part in this plastic consumption. And as we see in the next picture I'm about to put up is a dead albatross, with plastic debris in its stomach, or in this one with a dolphin with a plastic bag trailing from its fins, where as you can see it's caught. And so specifically here in this dolphin picture, I really wanted to understand the ramifications of this. And little did I know, would I get graphic content such as whales literally dying from how much plastic was consumed, to all other life forms being affected by not only plastic but pollution in general. But I think that the reason that plastic is something that has become so villainized is because it's something we can see and understand as humans. And as humans, we have to understand that since we are visual creatures, we can't visualize other forms of waste, such as nuclear, chemical waste, because we don't usually interact with those things, like the oil industry. That's great about BP oil spill, and that we're doing things to prevent that from happening in the future. But if you really want a visual, attainable, impactful reference, you would use something that people use every day, and that's plastic. And so that's how you can kind of see how things can be pretty biased, and how some companies can use it to their advantage in order to, really push their messaging. One of the most interesting lies that many anti-plastic companies and nonprofit organizations will push forward for their agenda is the idea of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is supposedly a huge marine debris island in the North Pacific Oceanic Gear area. And it's actually been proven that pictures, which I'll put up on the screen, pictures that showed this Great Pacific Garbage Patch were actually just shorelands and other parts of the world, coastlines where a lot of major ships or major haul ships. And also, this is something that's not really known by the public, that this actually doesn't exist, and it's kind of a marketing scheme because it's a really interesting metaphor to use to people. Whenever you think of an island, you tend not to think of a small island, and so the Great Pacific Garbage Patch has become an interesting metaphor to explain just the amount of plastic that is being hauled into the ocean at all times. And so this harmful way of using a metaphor can actually deter others, especially conservatives and even older conservatives, to be a part of the anti-plastic consumption conversation because they feel like they can't trust these nonprofit organizations that are pushing this agenda. And also, it was really interesting when I looked into some paperwork and kind of what plastic means to people today. The really interesting paper came up from 1996 from the Christian Science Monitor. And kind of plastic was seen as a setback of society or a hazard of materialism, that plastic equaled materialism, and also a sterile technological future, a thing of the past, not something that will bring us forward. And those are some really interesting metaphors of what plastic means to people in 1996, but could also be used for today. Many people think that plastic isn't the way of the future. So there's not really a need now for when somebody asks, do you want a plastic bag? To kind of be like, yes, I need a plastic bag, when there's so many other ways in today's 21st century world to find a different solution that is better for the environment. And so I feel like as an onlooker, understanding what plastic means in today's world and ways that it can harm the world. People, have good intentions behind it. It can also have harmful effects on, generating new audience members, especially since many people are still very much against climate change and pollution, really factoring in to marine wildlife. Quote I found that maybe instead of using the Great Garbage, Patch Island as a metaphor of just how harmful plastic consumption can be, I would instead encourage other organizations to use more factual metaphors. One including, as Marcus Ericsson, from the founder of 5 Gears, a nonprofit organization dedicated to researching and fighting ocean pollution, is the idea that it's not a patch, a soup, or an island. The metaphor we should use is a plastic smog, he said. He continues the metaphor explaining that every drain pipe is like a horizontal smokestack, dispersing a cloud of tiny plastic bits out into our waterways. And so that's a really interesting metaphor that is also factual, but also able to be really easily visualized, because we've all seen those large pollution like in the smoke and the fog and the whole thing, and we always reiterate that and associate that with something as negative. And so it's a perfect metaphor to use because a smokestack in general is considered negative because it's considered something that's primal, something that's in the past and not a future of technology, which again also then goes with the 1996 paper I just discussed previously. And so I think by using more attainable, more logical, and more factual metaphors, I would be definitely much more pro anti-plastic movements if correct facts were being used and correct visualizations, because the visuals are there. The animals are dying. The plastic is affecting the ocean temperatures, coral reefs, etc. I mean, it was all there, as noted in the beginning. But it's something that needs to be reiterated and informative in a way that is understandable to people, but also truthful, so that they can then build a trust towards these nonprofit organizations and corporations that are coming together for cause-related campaign purposes. Point, I'm definitely more pro finding new ways to make sure that these amazing animals don't die, but also anti-lying to the public. It's a really interesting circle because they have good intentions, but they do in a way that overall is harmful because you're not breeding in new audiences. And as somebody who tends to be socially liberal, but also economically conservative, I can see both sides of the equation when somebody can say, well, plastic is how we've always done it, and doing it your way would be super expensive and weird. But also, I can also see the liberal side saying, well, yes, it is something that's fundamental to who we are, but at the same time, we need to find new ways to keep the environment going. So I think kind of teaming those both sides of facts, visualizations, and metaphors that are truthful can lead to a brighter tomorrow overall for the world. And, honestly makes me somebody that agrees with both sides. And so, anyway, thank you so much for listening to my weird, convoluted, perhaps confusing, thought process behind this. But at the same time, understanding truly the ramifications that plastic has to the environment, but also the ramifications that fake news has to the environment is just as important. Thank you.